Good day. This is episode 9 from the Actors Studio. Today we're going to be talking on how to get started in Shakespeare. I'm making this video specifically for my students that are with the London College of Music, University of West London drama program. And there are 8 grades as well as the diplomas. And this is also a good tutorial for anyone who just wants to get started with acting Shakespeare or understanding Shakespeare. Okay, so there are just some really simple things you can do that I want to talk about when you're getting started, and we'll just break them up into 3 or 4 points. Okay. For high school students, for example, age, sometimes I hear like, oh my God, I don't understand Shakespeare. It's so scary and doesn't make any sense to me and it's irrelevant. Nobody talks like that anymore or whatever. But we're going to find that, classically trained actors and actresses that do study Shakespeare have a greater depth of emotional delivery, understanding, and classical acting and Shakespeare can help you to diversify and strengthen as an actor. And if you look at most of the best actors and actresses out there, Kenneth Branagh and people like Emma Thompson, and we can go on and on. Meryl Streep, Leo DiCaprio. We just go on and on to all the main actors that we know, and the ones that are consistently winning Oscars, consistently, doing a variety of characters, and usually the actors and actresses we love have definitely done Shakespeare. So where should we start? Okay, number one is I say what you want to do is just start getting set up. And so there's a few things you can do. One, you should actually get all the works of Shakespeare. And people go, oh my God, to get books, that's expensive. Well, no, because there are some incredible PDFs. One is Fuller's. Okay, so Fuller's, you can go to their website and download every single Shakespeare play in PDFs, and it not only gives you the original Shakespeare, but sometimes it gives you kind of like the modern translation or notes to help you understand. So by just loading those all up on your computer, that's just getting you started. So you learn like what are the plays of Shakespeare. With Shakespeare, he usually did 3 main categories of plays, and that would be obviously dramatic tragedies, okay, and comedies, and then also plays based on historical figures, okay. So what's a good idea to do is to create a folder on your computer that says Shakespeare, or somewhere where you keep your PDFs, and start putting them into folders. Shakespeare comedy, Shakespeare drama, Shakespeare historical. Okay, that's number one. Okay, next thing you should do is obviously watch Shakespeare. So pick whatever play might seem interesting to you. Maybe you're like me and you're kind of a little bit of a goth person and you like the supernatural. So like one of my favorite plays is Macbeth. Maybe you're into romance, so maybe it's you think I'll just start with Romeo and Juliet, or I like fantasy and fairies, I'll start with Midsummer, Night's Dream or whatever. Just pick one. Okay, and what you should start doing is before you even get out the actual plays to read, just start watching Shakespeare. What's so wonderful about Shakespeare is it leaves so much room for interpretations, and you will see Shakespeare, like let's just take something like Romeo and Juliet. There are literally hundreds of examples of movies and play versions of Romeo and Juliet. Is one of the most important plays ever written. So it doesn't matter where you start. If you say I'm going to sit down for the night and watch the Saffarelli version of from the late 60s of Romeo and Juliet, or maybe you want to watch Leo DiCaprio and do the more modern version. That's okay. Just get started watching. Okay. And I would say what's a good thing to do is to watch a tragedy, then watch a comedy, and then watch a historical. So you just kind of, start learning a few of the plays. Okay. Now, while you're watching it and you're watching it in Shakespeare verse, you might not understand it all. That's okay. Just kind of start to get the gist. Okay. So that's where you should start. Now, another great thing before you even start acting and reading is start watching documentaries on the play. So there is a 3-season documentary that I feel is fantastic called Shakespeare Uncovered that was done for public broadcasting, PBS. Now, what's really cool is most people nowadays have Amazon Prime Video or whatever. So season 3 is included with Amazon Prime. So you can just start watching all of those episodes, and each episode is a different play, and it's usually a famous actor or actress talking about the play, talking about the history, talking about the plot, talking about approaching the character, and you learn a lot and get a lot of insight. So I would start there. Just start watching those and take notes. Okay, that's important. And there's actually 3 seasons. So, if you, the first season is hard to find. I don't think it's available yet to purchase, but season 2 and season 3 you can get. So at least that's going to give you a good 16 Shakespeare plays to start working with. Okay. So once you kind of start getting into watching Shakespeare, you're going to see your own personality start to come through on what you're attracted to. Are you attracted to tragedy? Are you attracted to historical figures? Are you attracted to romance? Shakespeare gets really bawdy. There is some really outrageous sexual content and crazy stuff that is just as crazy as stuff we see in modern comedies today. So, just it doesn't matter what you like. Just kind of say, okay, I'm leaning towards this play. Once you find a Shakespeare play or character that you say, okay, I'm going to go study this, or maybe your drama class in college or your acting coach wants to assign you or work with you on a specific part, or maybe you're auditioning for Shakespeare and you say, I'm going to be auditioning for this part. Then what you do is get the fuller play out or whatever, or your copy. And what's good is to actually print it out. So one side, like the left side, is your script, and the right side is some blank paper or some line ruled paper where you can take notes. And this is really important. So you have to, number one is you have to understand what you're saying. And not only what you're saying, but what it meant in the context of Shakespeare, because words change and modern interpretation's different than what it meant. So you got to look at it many different ways. Okay. So what helps you with that is it's good when you start to study. What I would do is decide what part you're going to study. I'm just going to take one like Petruchio and Taming of the Shrew. That's one part, one I play that I really like. Okay. So then take the play, and what I would do first is take a highlighter, whatever color, highlight your part. That's always just smart, okay? That way you know where you're coming in the play. Then what you should do is look at every single line and ask yourself, do I understand the meaning? What's happening? Okay? Don't just assume you know. Just say, really, what does this mean the way he's saying it? What's the intent? So what can help you with that as well is what's called Spark Notes. So in Spark Notes, what's really cool is they have, you can get this just off the internet, and it has the actual play, and then it tells you the modern translation for every single line. That's going to help you understand what's really being said. So you need to take notes on that. So before you even start acting, you have to say, I have to understand this character, and I have to understand what they're really saying. So just start taking notes and go through the whole play with that character. That's going to help you. Spark Notes is a great place to start for modern students, especially high school age. This is really just kind of, oh, I see what they're saying now. Okay, that's good. Another thing you should do is have a classic dictionary nearby, or something online, like I like using the Oxford Dictionary, because you're going to see words that come up that we never use today that much. Here's an example that I had a student that was studying King Lear, and he saw the word bairn, and he's like, what are they saying? And that's Scottish, or kind of medieval Renaissance Scottish, for a baby boy. And he's like, really? Like, I would never know that because we never use that word. Well, you need to know that word because now you understand the context of what's being said. So he said, okay, that word, I'm going to, create a vocabulary list for the words I don't understand. And don't feel bad that you don't understand. Renaissance English is completely different than what we do today. So that's going to happen where there's just words Renaissance slang and things that we don't use. So that helps you kind of get started. Okay. So what you're going to do is, mark up your play, use Spark Notes, download the Fuller, plays, work on the understanding, create a vocabulary list. Okay. So that's gets you started. And of course, watching all the plays like we talked about, okay, and the documentaries. Once you've got that done, the next thing you're going to have to understand that helps you get in the flow of Shakespeare is understanding the verse. So what is verse? People are like, what does it mean to talk in verse? Well, we sometimes do that naturally. And verse is just basically talking in a rhythm, and sometimes maybe rhyming and sometimes not. But it has a kind of a rhythmic flow to it. So that's what is meant by verse. And Shakespeare used a specific type of verse called iambic pentameter. And when I mention this to students, they go, oh my God, that sounds scary. What is that? It's actually a very simple idea of every, when things are in iambic pentameter, every line will be 10 syllables. But what happens is that we accent the second. So the rhythm is sort of short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. And did you notice that was 10 syllables? Okay, let me do that again. Short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long. Okay, so that's iambic pentameter. What we sometimes do when we want to mark up the rhythm of the verse in Shakespeare is we use a little dash for the short and a slash for the long. So you can actually do that. Here's a perfect example, is the famous line from Twelfth Night, which is a Shakespeare play. Okay, so watch. If music be the food of love, play on. Okay, so you see how the rhythm falls? If music be the food of love, play on. Now, then, that's the basic rhythm. Now, we don't want to sound robotic, but that's where the emphasis falls. It's not if music be the food of love, play on. It's if music be the food of love, play on. See the difference in the flow? And that changes how we hear it, but it also changes the meaning. It's not a question. It's not if food or love. It's if music. It's not if music. It's if music be the food of love, play on. And there's a flow to it, and that can help you with your interpretation and finding the emotion in the character. And you will see sometimes there's a beautiful flow. And usually in verse, when things are flowing, eventually something's going to break. Shakespeare will break that flow. And when he breaks the flow or the verse, it tells you something dramatic or something important's happening. And that creates this emotional effect we hear. Okay. And sometimes we might have things that rhyme and sometimes we don't. And the rhyme scheme can also have a playfulness, which might tell you the character's in a playful mood. And then when it gets not rhyming and strong words, maybe then it's different. That gives you clues to how to act it. What's great about Shakespeare is that there's a lot of room for interpretation. And and that's really another important thing to do. So once you start studying the iambic pentameter and the verse and getting the flow, then go to the movie again, or something that you've seen, a famous actor or actress doing the role you're working on. And then just kind of notice how they deliver it and what's the mood. And then watch somebody else and you might get a totally different perspective. And that's fine. I love to do that, is to watch an actress, like, for example, again, one of my favorite Shakespeare's is Taming of the Shrew. And watching Elizabeth Taylor's version of it, and then watching, Maggie Smith, and then watching, Meryl Streep and other people doing the same role and completely approaching it differently and taking different actions with it. And that can help you kind of find the character. Here's the thing, too. It's perfectly okay to be you in Shakespeare. What that means is that you have your own emotions, an own way of feeling, okay? And, once you've done the hard work of actually taking it apart scientifically, like we're talking about and analyzing, you will start to find what feels natural for you within the parameters of Shakespeare, okay? And that's okay. It's really interesting to see different actors of different generations do Shakespeare. It's really, to me, like, it was really fascinating to watch the Saffarelli version of Romeo and Juliet, and then to see what, like, Leo DiCaprio did in the Baz Luhrmann more modern version of it. It's just very different. Or to take something like, again, like the very famous movie of with Richard Burton and Liz Taylor of Taming of the Shrew, and then seeing, what did the Royal Shakespeare Company do with it? What did a local college in your area do with it? Differences in staging, differences in just personality looks. We all look different too. So that affects how people see us on stage. So you have to kind of play with that, like what works for me in the character, and to ask questions with your fellow actors and coaches. It's okay to say, I'm not sure how to play this. What are you thinking? Let's talk about how the character's reacting to the other character, and so forth. And that's a great place to get started. So let's review. We talked about, first of all, just start watching the plays, watching the Shakespeare movies, watch Shakespeare Uncovered, get a notebook, take notes on the plays, see which plays you're drawn to, see which plays might have characters that are perfect for your natural personality. That's really good. Different, and you can play Shakespeare at any age. So I have some people that are, like, I have some retired students in their 60s and 70s and 80s even, that are like, am I too old to get started in Shakespeare? No, there's perfect parts for you. I mean, like, look at King Lear. King Lear was, obviously, old gentleman in his, 70s, and you could be young. Juliet was 14, so you could really start at any age and find a character that you can relate to and get, kind of get your teeth involved in. Okay. It's super fun too. It doesn't have to be scary. It's okay if you don't know something, to look things up, ask questions. I send my students to, like, if they're, again, reading, learning a Shakespeare character, to go watch the plays, watch several versions, watch several movie versions, go to Wikipedia, go watch the Shakespeare Uncovered, and there's other documentaries on Shakespeare as well. Watch movies about Shakespeare, like Shakespeare in Love. Just get involved, and I'm sure you will make great progress. I happen to be very fortunate when I was a kid. I had an honors English teacher teacher at my high school named Linda Carpenter, who was very connected with the London stage. She knew Anthony Hopkins and a lot of famous, Kenneth Branagh, famous actors, and she taught us a lot of Shakespeare, and that's where I kind of developed my love for Shakespeare. And it's so interesting that, I'm 53 now, and when I started with Shakespeare, I was a teenager. And it's so interesting that I keep going back to the same plays I like. And I discover something new every time. It's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Or, oh, there's a little subtlety in that that's a little bit of a double entendre or something I missed the first time around or whatever. So you're always growing with Shakespeare. Shakespeare is like an onion that you're pulling off layers and learning more and learning more. And you never ever end. It's sort of like, and that's how you become a better actor, is approaching things differently, and as you mature, you'll see new things in Shakespeare. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. I did my best to give you some basics there, and I'll go deeper later on, but I just wanted to give you, for all of my students and those out there that are just starting to read Shakespeare, just starting to act, just starting to get into this, where to start. And there's a lot of great help out there. When I was a kid, we didn't have the internet, so, dating me, but now you can download every play for free with Foolers. You have the Spark Notes online. You have almost every Shakespeare play up on YouTube. And you have the Shakespeare movies on Netflix and Prime. And, you have your PBS stations, and, the British American stations and all those, so many options nowadays to immerse yourself in this and so forth. Oxford Dictionary is online too, so you can just sit at your computer and press a button like, oh, I don't know what that word is, write it down, and it starts to come alive for you. Okay, and it's like, be a scientist. But think of it this way, that when you start Shakespeare, I know it's new, I know it could be seems daunting, but if you're a detective and you go do the work, you're going to discover more and more, and then it starts to come alive for you. That's what happened with me and with every student that fought me on not, I don't want to do Shakespeare, I'm scared, and then they got into it and they're like, oh my God, I want to do Shakespeare forever now, and that's how it should be for you. Okay, so much love, and I look forward to hearing from you. Feel free to leave comments. Feel free to, like my channel. And if you are in the U.S. and you're interested in acting lessons, I myself and my faculty do online acting lessons for U.S. residents. And then I have limited space here at my studio in Long Beach, California. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.